Hi, I'm Laura with the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History, and as part of our Earth Week celebration, we're going to talk about the Trinity River, a little bit about what it is as a watershed, and its ecosystem and a couple of the animals that live there. So first of all, what is a watershed? A watershed is an area where all of the rainwater and snow, if there is snow in the area, all the melting snow collect into a creek, a stream, or a river. So that means all of the land, all of the water will flow off into creeks, streams, and rivers. Now, the smaller creeks and streams will join into larger rivers, such as the Trinity, and eventually they will empty into a large reservoir, or they will empty into a bay or an ocean. So the Trinity River is unique to Texas because the entire watershed of the Trinity River is located within the Texas borders. All of the other rivers in Texas, their watershed overlaps state borders. So there's some that start in Oklahoma and then run through Texas, some in Arkansas, Louisiana, and then they run through Texas and even New Mexico as well. But the Trinity River, the entire watershed, is located within the borders of Texas. So the Trinity River is about 423 miles long and has 4 branches. All of the branches either start north or north-ish of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So the 2 branches that are kind of on the Fort Worth side of the Metroplex are the West Fork of the Trinity River and the Clear Fork of the Trinity River. The West Fork of the Trinity River starts northward and runs down through Eagle Mountain Lake and a couple of other reservoirs before meeting up with the Clear Fork close to downtown Fort Worth. The Clear Fork starts slightly east of Weatherford, runs through Lake Weatherford and through Lake Benbrook, and then meets up with the West Fork in Fort Worth. Now, those combined forks run through Fort Worth and into Dallas, where they meet up with the Elm Fork and the East Fork of the Trinity River. And those watersheds come from more of the Dallas area. So the entire Trinity River is pretty cool. Another interesting thing about it is the largest non-navigable river that has cities around it. So most cities that are around rivers got started in those areas because they could use the rivers as shipping channels. The Trinity River is way too shallow and way too narrow in many different areas for it to be used as a shipping channel. In order to have it as a shipping channel, they would have to do so much dredging and so much widening of the river that it would be very cost prohibitive to do, and therefore it's irrelevant to do that to make it a shipping channel. It's actually kind of turned out great for us because we have such a beautiful river that runs through our wonderful cities, and it provides a lot of green space and beautiful open areas for us to have parks and things like that and enjoy the wildlife and the scenery that thrive around it. So we are going to talk about a few animals that live in the Trinity River ecosystem. We're going to start off with one that you may not know too much about and may get confused with another animal, and that is our nutria. So a lot of people confuse nutria and beaver. Nutria have a long rodent-like tail like a rat, whereas beavers have large flat tails. Now they do have teeth similar to a beaver, which you can kind of see if I put my hand here. You can kind of see their teeth look very similar to a beaver's teeth, but they're not. Nutria don't eat wood and build dams and things like that like beaver do. They are predominantly plant eaters. So these guys have webbed feet on the back to help them swim. And they will swim around in the river looking for food, looking for good places to live, and that's a great way for them to escape their predators also. And then they make dens and things in the banks along the river. They will come out at dawn and dusk to eat plant material, kind of grazing, if you will, in the tall grasses and things on the sides of the river. So they are a crepuscular animal. So that's one of the animals that lives near the Trinity. Now we're going to talk about a different animal, and this was one of my favorites, and it is the great blue heron. So these birds are very commonly seen all along the Trinity River, as well as other areas and lakes and streams and things in our area. So they will wade through the shallow water at the river's edge, or they'll fish off the bank. And they use their long legs to kind of help them get a good perspective or wade through that water to be able to see their fish. Once they see the fish they want, or frogs, or lizards, or snakes even that are in the water, they will use their beak to go down and grab it. They'll toss it back and they will swallow it whole down this nice long neck. So they're a bird that you've probably seen around the Trinity River ecosystem if you've been there. Another bird that we have that is very common to the Trinity River ecosystem is our wood ducks. Now, wood ducks are very interesting because the male and the female look very, very different from each other. This is the male and this is the female. He's very flashy because he wants to attract the female. Now she's much duller in color because she's responsible for taking care of the nest and the babies. So she does not want to attract a lot of attention to her. She wants to blend in with her environment to keep everybody safe. Now these ducks are interesting because they actually nest in the tall trees along the Trinity River. So they will nest in a hollow cavity and then about 15 to 20 feet off the ground. And when the babies hatch, then they'll be kicked out of the nest and their mother will lead them to the river. Now, don't worry about them being kicked out of the nest. They usually nest in places where the leaf litter is very, very deep, so the babies have a nice cushion to fall on when they jump out of the nest. Let's talk about one more animal that most people are also very familiar with, and that is our red-eared snapping turtle, or red-eared turtle, not a snapping turtle. People get them confused. These are not snapping turtles. These are regular turtles. So red-eared sliders, interestingly enough, are not native to Texas. They are an invasive species that have made their home here. Not really sure where they came from. I'm not sure anybody's really aware of where they originated from, but they love our environment and they love also other environments, so they've made themselves very much at home. Now, these are reptiles, which means that they do need to keep themselves warm because they are cold-blooded. So you will frequently see them sunning themselves on branches that are in the water, along the riverbanks, and even on rocks and things that are in the river. And that keeps them warm enough to be able to digest their food and have their bodies metabolize and function properly. So thank you so much for joining us for a quick discussion of our Trinity River, its watershed, and its ecosystem. We hope you have a great Earth Week and hope to see you soon at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History.